Okay, can I have your attention, please? We're about to begin the session tonight. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for our soldiers. Thank you. Welcome candidates and property owners. Candidates, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to let you real quickly go right down the line. We'll start with Phil. And Phil, just go right down the line, introduce yourself. Phil?
Very good.
Where's the mic?
Thank you. My name is Phil Birdsall, and as it happens, we drew numbers for our seating assignments tonight, and I got the same spot.
My name's Tom Regal, and I came from the other end.
I'm Steve Smith, and I'm also in the same spot. They didn't want me to get lost.
I'm John Byers, and I sit between the same two guys I sat between last night.
Same for me. I'm Ralph C. I've been here since 2003.
I'm Jeannie Miller, and thank you for coming tonight.
I'm Dennis Monson, sitting by the rows.
Hi, I'm Jack Linhart, or John Linhart, whatever you please.
My name is Oliver Dossman, and thank you for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you. Believe it or not, we had a bowl up here that they picked a number to correspond to a seat. And so, three of them had the same numbers last night? What's the odds? Today's town hall meeting will be for all the candidates, and they will all have an opportunity to answer questions. We're going to have our questions in a fishbowl as we did last night. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer. After a minute and 30 seconds, a bell will ring. Want to try that, Neil? Can you hear it this time? Can you guys hear that a little better? Okay. We'll ring that bell at 1 minute and 30 seconds. And then at 2 minutes, the candidates have agreed to, that's when they stop their answer. I want to introduce the election committee because they have done a fine job. To my left here is Don Krobot. If you want to know anything about electronic balloting, he's the expert. Our bell ringer is Neil Donovan. Our question taker and writer-upper is Bill Neeson. Now we have three members that aren't here tonight: Jim Stevens, Pat Vinson, and Don Spielvogel. Okay, we got it out. Okay, so that is your committee for this year. Okay, and I am Doug Naraki, and I'll be your moderator tonight. The entire session is being video recorded, and next week the video will be put on the Fairfield Glade website. So those that didn't make it last night will be able to see the first night, or you can revisit either night. It will be on the website. For those that have been here twice now, the format will be the same as yesterday. What I also want to mention is that Fairfield Glade has partnered with Survey and Ballots System, S&B, to administer the 2017 election using what they call direct vote system. You will be receiving an email with your electronic ballot on August 1st. If you do not receive the email by August 2nd, I know you won't remember this, but it'll also be in the paper. Email support@directvote.net. If you are getting a paper ballot, paper ballots will also be mailed out August 1st, but it'll be going U.S. postage, so you may get them the 2nd, you may get them the 3rd, but they'll be coming. Some of the questions we're going to ask today will be similar to those of last night. What we have done, because we found out last night the hard way, I think it was one of the candidates got the same question 3 times. So we have eliminated all the doubles. Okay, in order to get the candidates to answer as many, we're hoping to get through 36 questions tonight. They'll all have 2 minutes. Coffee and water is at the back of the room. Restrooms are out this door and up the hall to the right. And we will have an intermission partway through the evening. Okay, if we're ready, candidates, are you ready? And for those that don't understand what we're doing, Bill has 2 fish bowls. One has a question in it, and one has a candidate's name. So he draws the name and the question, and that's how we start, and we'll go through till we get all 9 candidates answered, 1 question. We'll put all 9 names back in and go to round 2, and we'll continue that. We're hoping to get 4 rounds in tonight. Tom Regal, you get the first one. No, you don't. Tom just had surgery the other day on his spine, so if he doesn't stand up, I hope you understand his problem. Okay, are you ready, Tom? Who takes responsibility for the major design defects in developing the conference center, which can't be rented because there's no kitchen? Money spent remodeling Legends and Stonehenge Grill these last 2 years with no expansion of the kitchen, and our beautiful Dorchester facility, which is first class, but no kitchen.
That's a difficult question for a candidate to answer. I can honestly say that I was involved in disagreeing about the way that the conference center was constructed. I really felt that we needed a kitchen. It was voted down. I don't know as you can place blame on anybody other than the board. They made the decision, and I don't mean that negatively. They made a decision thinking that it would interfere with the Legends business. Again, it's like a lot of us up here. We have a difference of opinion on issues. That doesn't make any one of us wrong. It just means we have a different opinion than the other guy. So that's about the only way I can answer it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. You just got your minutes back that you lost yesterday. Okay, Mr. John Byers. Fairfield Glade's budget is larger than the city of Crossville, and we employ more people. Regardless of whether you consider Fairfield Glade a retirement community or a resort, we are a business. Why are you qualified to run a business?
Well, that's somewhat of a loaded question, so let me just give you a little history. I was born and raised in north central Indiana in Amish country. I'm an Amish man at heart. I have an engineering degree. I started my career in engineering and ended my career as CEO of a corporation doing $600 million a year in revenue plus some 1,200 employees. Throughout that career, I learned a lot of things. I learned how to listen to people. I learned how to work with people. I know how to read a balance sheet and an income statement. And typically, the first thing I look at whenever I walk into a business is I want to see the financials. I want to see the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. And I could tell a lot about the way the company is run by looking at the numbers. Okay, and in looking at, so my first reaction here has always been, as I look at the numbers, and last night you heard me talk about the numbers, and a lot of people get frustrated when my wife tells me I throw out too many numbers, but that's my business. I've been at it for now 38 or 28 years, 38 years as CEOs of major corporations, and so I think that kind of gives me a little bit of insight into how to take a look at a small business that's doing $20 million a year. My smallest company I ever was involved with was $50 million, and my largest one was over $600 million. Thank you.
Okay, Oliver Dossman. If privately owned restaurants expect to and do operate at a profit, why do Fairfield Glade restaurants expect to lose money? Prices are really no different. Why do we expect them to be an amenity to lose money?
Good question. Thank you, and good night. Good evening. Not good night. Good evening. I'm just trying to buy time, though. So F&B is food and beverage is a bit of a hot potato, it seems. It has been lately. Everybody talks about food and beverage, the fact that we are losing money, and I have been one of those candidates that has said repeatedly that I do not believe that our amenities are actually losing money. I believe there's a different way to look at the P&Ls that is more accurate to reflect the way that our community is a combination of POA dues combined with pay-to-play. So having said that, I will admit that food and beverage is a little bit of a different beast. Yes, it is an amenity, and I do believe that it is appropriate to have some losses in that amenity. However, it would certainly be nice if we could at least reduce those losses and ultimately maybe one day eliminate those losses. Now, as Phil pointed out yesterday very eloquently, the losses of F&B equal $3.84, about the price of a Happy Meal, as Phil pointed out. We have other amenities that, quote unquote, lose money in those numbers as well. For example, golf. You subsidize golf, all of you who are residents here, by $5. You subsidize the community center and all of the activities and the swimming pools and fireworks and concerts, all of those great things that we enjoy, by $8. So we are a community club which uses POAs to subsidize our amenities to some extent. Thank you.
Thank you. Ralph, are you ready? What will you do as a board member to keep wind turbines from being approved and built in our area?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What would you do as a board member to keep wind turbines from being approved and built in our area?
Well, the first thing, you know that the state has passed a law that said that it's going to postpone it for about a year. As a past worker in the utility industry, I know that the wind turbines are probably the least economical because of the subsidies by the federal government. So at this point, I believe that the wind turbines, in part, will never be built because they're not economical. Now, I think, as I mentioned the other night, people were talking about solar energy. Now, solar energy appears to be the growing way to go, and with a lot less killing of wildlife like the wind turbines do. So I feel that right now our two representatives in the state legislature have done an excellent job of stopping the wind turbines, and I think they will continue to do so.
Okay, thank you. Jeannie? Do you feel it is ethical for the board members to accept any gifts from Wyndham, especially expensive gifts?
I want to know first if I'm going to get elected before I answer that. Let me say that when you accept gifts from someone who affects your position and can change or alter your decision, then I believe it's unethical, because I don't believe in bribery and I don't believe in pay to play under those circumstances. If it is your affiliate or your colleague who is giving that to you and there is no conflict of interest in what is going on, then it may be appropriate, but expensive gifts to me always sound a little questionable.
Okay, Jack? Are you independent enough to vote based upon what the people want to have happen and not what the manager or the board president or other board members think?
People who know me know I have my own opinions, and pretty strong ones sometimes. I could consider myself very independent. I would not sway my opinion based on some friendship or business association or golf association. I don't think that's appropriate. Members of the board should listen, mostly, listen to our members, do their homework, and make decisions based on that, not on any associations. Thank you.
Okay, Steve, you got a mic? To keep up property values, infrastructure needs to be maintained and updated. How would you propose to budget for this?
Well, that's basically what we've been doing over the last 3 to 5 years. What we've done is we've made a concerted effort through the use of POA dues and so on and so forth, and I think a little bit yesterday I mentioned, a lot of people talk about the new amenities we have been building. In reality, when you look at it, we've not built but one new amenity in the last 3 to 5 years. Everything we've done since then, or during that time, has been rebuilding old, dilapidated amenities. The Dorchester Clubhouse, renovations of the Stonehenge atrium, redoing the bunkers on Stonehenge, Fireside Lounge, and so on and so forth. So I just say that we will probably continue to do the same thing. And obviously borrowing money is not something we want to do, and we probably will never do that. Well, I can't say never, excuse me, I'm sorry, you can never say never, but that's not our first method of improving amenities.
Okay, Phil? What objectives should be given to food and beverage in terms of expectations and priorities?
Well, basically that falls into 2 categories. The first category is service. There have been issues with service. I personally am patient enough that I don't get too excited when my check doesn't come to the table, but I will be honest, there have been times when I've begun to wonder. I know that the board has already implemented some of those issues or some of those proposed changes. One of them was mentioned yesterday, I think, by Mr. Weber, the concept of having servers, or not servers, but people who deliver the meals who are not the servers, who are not the waiters or waitresses. So service issues is number 1. The other one, of course, is the one that's the hot button item right now, and that's profitability or subsidy or whatever the case may be. And by the way, I don't like the word subsidy because I agree with something that's already been said here tonight. We are making an investment in our amenities. We are not subsidizing them. That's a little semantic, but it's how I feel. The subject of the losses is one of the things that, in particular, I was interested in running for the board because I honestly think that analyzing a food business, a restaurant business, is not that difficult. There are many industry standards. There are many ways you can compare your performance with industry standards. You're looking at the income side. That's how many tickets you write, how many meals you serve, how many people you're attracting. And on the other side, you're looking at the cost of delivering those meals. That's a subject that I am intrigued by. I think there's a lot of work to do that can be done. I hope that the consultant will participate in that and provide us with some help. But I am looking forward to really breaking that down in order to minimize, not eliminate, but minimize those operating deficits.
Okay, thank you. Dennis? I'm going to read it as it's written. As the director of Fairfield Glade Community Club, what action and leadership role would you take to see that policies and decisions of long-term and significant benefit or impact represents a groundswell of support from existing Fairfield Glade residents and not just directors of Fairfield Glade, members eligible to vote on club matters?
Really?
You want me to reread it?
Sure.
Okay.
Is that part of my minutes? Please.
Okay. As a director of Fairfield Glade Community Club, what action and leadership role would you take to see that policies and decisions of long-term and significant benefit or impact represent a groundswell of support from existing Fairfield Glade residents and not just directors of Fairfield Glade, members eligible to vote in the club matters?
Wow. I don't think any of us got the whole message. Just to let you know, I was on seat 2 last night and got the last question of the first round. I thought this might help, so I moved to seat 7. I still get the last question. I'm not really sure exactly what that question means. I do know as a member of the ACC committee that we have gone over the bylaws and the regulations of that committee twice in my 2.5 years on that committee. And I think that's about the only thing you can do. You can review them, you can see, you can update them, you can see how they apply to the new people. I think I might have heard something about a privilege that the board might have over the rest of you. I do not agree with that. Certainly the board has to do some decision-making things, but in regular decisions, I think we certainly need your input, and I feel like I'm approachable enough that you can come and talk to me about it, anything at any time.
Okay, that does conclude round 1. We'll now start round 2. And guess what, Dennis, you're first.
God, hallelujah.
If the purchase of the Discovery Center fails, are you in agreement that the club should proceed in building a new public safety building and using the monies currently in the budget? And would this be a priority over the concert park?
I guess, first of all, I would hope that the Discovery Center clears. I think we're working really hard to get that done. The space has been somewhat theoretically allocated to different groups already. If we can't get that, I think we do need to do something for public safety, and if that's the next best option, I guess that's what we do, is to build another building. Not being on the board, I don't know what they've looked at. I don't know what they've evaluated as far as what's available, and so that's the best answer I can give you. But I think that it's possible to build a new building with the budget that we have.
Okay, thank you. Steve. Okay. What can be done to ensure demand for houses in Fairfield Glade in the next 10 to 20 years?
What can be done to, well, we can hire more builders. Right now, I think in reality, the demand for houses is, the demand does not exceed the supply. We've got, and I can't give you exact numbers, but we have more than enough houses on the market right now. Our builders are building more new houses every year. I believe between 1915 and 1916, we sold 58 more homes in 1916 than we did in 1915. Don't quote me, these are not exact numbers. I think so far in this year, we're ahead of the sale of existing homes around 43. So we're doing pretty good. Unfortunately, because of the nature of our community, we always have younger people coming in. I hate to think about it, but we also have people leaving. That's just the nature of the beast as well. So I don't think we're ever going to be in the position in the near future of running out of places for residents to find.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Jack, you got a mic down there? What is your position on spending money for improvements? What sort of improvements justify capital expenditures, if any?
There will always be reasons to spend money because we need to invest in our community. If we're not investing in our community, it's going to deteriorate and go downhill. So I don't think the last part of that question is really valid. We must invest in our community. And the way to go about this, of course, is to make good decisions on what you're going to spend your money on, just like you do in your household budget. We can do this with a great deal of integrity so that we include everybody in the decision. Or we can proceed, if it's a minor investment, the board can certainly proceed on its own. We have enough talent on our board and with our staff. So major investments, I think, is a different story. We need to have public hearings, or town halls, as you call them. We need to have surveys like we're doing now. So I think all this information needs to be gathered by the board so that they make proper investments in our community.
Okay, Ralph? What do you believe is the primary role of a Fairfield Glade board member?
I think the primary goal is to try to respond, listen to the residents, and try to respond to some of their needs. Last night, after the session, there was a couple of people come up and had some thoughts about what they might like to see around in the Glade. I think the board needs to listen to the residents, not just the ones that are the loudest, but try to, as a lot of people mentioned, the electronic surveys, I think, have been a great way for the members to respond so that you get a full response from all the members, not just the members that, write articles or come up and call you in the middle of the night, like I remember some board members said they've done.
Okay, Oliver? Please explain your position, pro or con, regarding the proposed Village Mall concept, and how much should the club be involved, financially or otherwise?
That's a good question. I like this one. So I'm a member of the Strategic Planning Committee. I've been on that committee for the last year and a half or so. And I've been the chairman of that committee for the past 6-7 months. And one of the projects, one of the concepts that we have been working on is precisely the village center concept. Now, the first thing to understand about this project is that it is not a project that we are proposing for the club to undertake. As you all may know, there are various owners amongst us that we partner with and that we have a good relationship with. There's Wyndham, there's the church there that's behind the check-in building, there's the Village Green Mall. So it is very important to understand that we as the club do not own the land that we are proposing to be developed into a village center. However, what we want to do as a club is to make sure that what is developed on those parcels of land is going to be something that we can be proud of as a community. So we want to be the coordinators, and I think the key word in this is we want to help coordinate. Again, we do not own the land. Even if we wanted to invest in a large village center and put millions of dollars into it, even if we wanted to, we couldn't. We don't own the land where that is going to be hopefully one day developed. So our goal is to help coordinate, to communicate with the owners, with the business owners, and to try to see if there's something we can do together as a community that will enhance what we have in terms of our gathering spaces, our shops, our restaurants, create a sense of community maybe that we don't have quite to the extent that we would like to see in the future. So that is my position on the Village Center. I am a strong proponent of it. I think it would be wonderful. It would be a great asset. It would increase property values for us, and it would increase our quality of life here in Fairfield Glade.
Thank you. John Byers? How much would you be willing to raise the homeowners' fees to improve the community with a new bandstand and better handicap access for music events?
Okay. I think I addressed that last night. It sounds like a similar question that I took on last night. At this point, I am not willing to increase the dues on anyone. And we could spend a long time talking about that, but I'm really not interested in doing that. That's not to say on a long-term basis I wouldn't be willing to do that, but I think there are so many opportunities right now to look at in terms of ways to save money in what we're doing, and we should be focusing on reducing the cost of some of the things we've done and take that money to improve the other areas, okay? And I can give you a couple examples. Okay, in the world that I come from, I think I said last night, if you look at revenue and you look at expenses, okay, and we can have a conversation about what we've lost here in the last few years, but it's been significant in the millions. We need to look at ways to do that, ways to save money in those areas. Okay, and anytime your expenses exceed revenues, that's called a loss. And that's where we need to focus our efforts right now on improving the loss ratios and take a quick look at what we can do in other ways before we would ever take a look at increasing the dues to our residents. Thank you.
Okay, Jeannie? Are you troubled by the losses of our food and beverage division and the CCC? If so, what steps would you take to reverse the upward trend and work our way down to a break-even as a worst-case scenario for food and beverage, and a significant improvement in the financial performance of the CCC?
The first answer is no. I am not concerned majorly because we have amenities provided to us. And I hear people saying that there are losses in food and beverage, but we're not losing money overall, so how does that happen? That happens by the amenity fee that you are paying is paying for what you are receiving in the food and beverage. We are not losing money, we're merely paying for it ourselves as opposed to having all of our visitors pay for it. Now, of major importance,
I don't think the food and beverage will ever be a profitable. It hasn't in the 40 years we've been here. It would be phenomenal if we could do it in the next 2 or 3 years. But it's understood that we pay for what we get, and that seems to be fair. But what we are working on, and the survey, which is August 2nd, if you'll attend that survey presentation at 3 and at 7:30, the survey results and recommendations from the people who did the survey are very strong in making recommendations on how we can make it more profitable. And that will be a very valuable lesson to us, because there's lots of things we can do to provide better service, better quality, and better enjoyment of the food that's being presented to us.
Okay, thank you. Bill, you ready? Got a mic? Would you support videotaping of the Fairfield Glade board meetings? Why or why not?
I wrote this question. No, I came here with that. Absolutely. But let me go a step further. I would support live streaming, because that's what's happening these days with technology. I think it's a fairly efficient, cost-wise way to do it. It would be available on the club's website, and it would be available, it would be archived and would be available at a later date. So I would definitely support providing that service to our residents. There are only so many seats at the library, and there are many folks in our community who are just not in a position to get out and come to those meetings. And so the board meetings, there's a workshop session, and there's the regular board meeting. I would definitely be in support of that. You understand that the board presently goes into what I'll call executive session the day of the workshop. That's a different matter. I will say this, that one of the other items on my list of things I'm curious about is the extent to which that workshop is actually necessary to be closed to the public. My guess is it's a very efficient and effective way of doing business, but I'm looking forward to putting some fresh eyes on that subject as well.
Okay, thank you. Tom? Upon completion of Peavine Road project, would you be in favor of replacing trees to restore the aesthetic beauty at HOA expense?
Well, that, again, is about like the speeding question last night. I don't really believe, I could be wrong, but I don't really believe we're going to have a lot of choice. The area that has been cleared is state land, and there are setbacks off of the highway that will still belong to the state. And I doubt very much that we would have the prerogative of doing that. Now, the next question then is, would the state ultimately allow it as part of a long term, because the expense would be extreme. Were we to be able to obtain permission from the state, I would endorse a beautification. And as we talked about last night, I would certainly hope that we could do something about getting a designation on that road that would allow control of the signage. I believe that the business owners have a right to signage, but I also think it should be controlled. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes round 2. We now begin round 3. And Steve, you're going to start us off. How well is the property standards enforcement process working?
I think it's working fairly well. The Property Standards Committee is, we're in the learning stage. What we decided several years ago was that we had a committee, the ACC, and that's architectural control. And they were basically preoccupied, and 90% of their work was on approving buildings, making sure that the new builds were the proper style, and so on and so forth. And they really didn't have enough time because there's a lot on their plate to deal with property standards. So what we did about 2 years ago is we created this Property Standards Committee. And Phil was our first chairman of that. And we struggled first with, they dealt first of all with voluntary compliance. They put out their handbook, they did a very good job in that, and so on and so forth. Right now, we have what we call a property standards inspector who is going out into the community and enforcing the property standards policies. I happen to be the liaison to the Property Standards Committee, and quite honestly, I think they're doing an outstanding job. It's very difficult with a community our size to catch everything instantly. If you want to see some real success stories, go into the Wilshire Heights area. It's still not the most beautiful part of Fairfield, but it is much better than it used to be. So I think Property Standards is doing fairly well, and they're getting their act together.
Okay, thank you. Phil? Considering the club's outstanding loans, do you foresee the club incurring any additional long-term loans in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, clearly that depends on what you decide to do. And if I could borrow the fishbowl, turn it upside down and pretend, we might have a magic ball of some kind. We might be able to predict the future. But seriously, from a technical standpoint, our debt to equity ratio right now, which is very technical, but it's very healthy. It's a number that, based on standards, accounting standards for communities like ours, is extremely healthy. So from that standpoint, there might be a place for some additional borrowing. Of course, additional borrowing requires repayment, and that's really the issue for us because it hits our pocketbook potentially. So the answer to that question is, I would never say never, but I'm not aware right now of anything in my mind that would lead to that additional borrowing. But I don't necessarily think it's, by its very nature, a wrong thing to do.
Okay, Ralph? What would you do to improve the community, and how would you pay for that?
Well, I know from one board member that right now, the club pays over $500,000 on roads, which the county is responsible for, so we'd like to get the county to participate a little bit more in that. And as being past chairman of a tree commission in Fairfield Park, Ohio, I've always liked to plant more trees. I think what they've been doing in these walkways things is are replacing trees as they die off. And I think, to me, the flowering trees present a spectacular picture here in the spring. And I think that if we can continue along those lines and plant different kinds of trees that give either flower in the spring or flower in the fall, it would enhance the beauty of the community and make it much more attractive to people that come to visit.
Okay, Tom, you ready? Residents have expressed concern that many lots under construction for new homes are being cleared of, quote, all trees. What is your opinion of this practice?
That is a considerable change from what we have done in the past. The ACC has always been involved in the marking and designation of clearing. I truly believe that that is the property owner's prerogative. I've always thought to myself that if a tree that the club tells me I have to keep falls on my house, who pays for the damage? So I guess my answer is that the number of trees that are on the property, as long as it doesn't present a hazard to someone else, ought to be the property owner's distinction.
Okay, Oliver? Do you think that capital expenditures of $100,000 or more should be put to a vote of the entire community? Why or why not? And please note that the cost of each election is approximately $12,000.
I'm not sure how the second part of the question relates to the first part, but the answer to the first part is no. I do not believe that as members, as residents here, we should be obligated to vote on expenditures of $100,000 or more. And there's several reasons for that. First of all, is that's why we have a board of directors. And we elect our board of directors, and we trust them, hopefully. And we know that they do a lot of research, and we believe in their decision-making abilities. And so I feel that expenditures in the $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, I think those are appropriate for the board to make decisions on. Now, having said that, as a board member, I would be very open if there was consensus amongst the board that if there's a big expenditure coming, and we might say, you know what, let's see what the community thinks about this one, and let's go ahead and get a vote on it, or at least maybe a survey, just to see where the community stands. But I think we have to be very careful when we go down the road of involving the members too much in the day-to-day activities. And it's not out of disrespect for the members, but simply because the leaders, the managers, the board members have to have the ability to lead. And if we go down that road, at some point, where does it end? Does the general manager need permission to buy a new box of paper clips? I mean, where do we stop? You know, where is that line where the board and the managers are trusted to do the jobs that they are given to do? So my position is, I believe that on major decisions, I know several years ago there were big decisions on incorporation and other matters, and I think those went out to the community. That's great. When there are direction changes, when the decision is going to change the direction of something important within Fairfield Glade, then sure, let's involve the residents. But I believe for the most part, we need to let the board members and the managers do their jobs.
Thank you. Dennis? Explain your position on fiscal responsibility and debt management.
Well, it's fairly easy to do from my home. I can't function in a negative for too long, or people come after me. I think that it's possible to balance budgets. I think it's possible to balance all of the budgets. There's a couple of items, a couple of ideas about this. Sometimes the budget is set too high, too unrealistic. Sometimes you get a problem with the income regarding the budget. Sometimes they need to be brought a little bit closer together. But I think that you cannot operate very long in a negative. I think that the board in the recent past and the manager have done an excellent job in reducing the debt here, and I think they should continue. One of us should be able to continue on with them. But I do think that you can't operate very long in a negative, and sooner or later those budgets have to be balanced.
John Byers? If you are elected as a representative of the residents, what do you believe to be the important issue and concern of the community?
Okay, that's a great lead into one of the concerns that I have, and significant concerns. Okay, today, and probably one of the biggest concerns we have here is health and safety of our people. Today, most of us are not aware of the fact that our fire department, who are rescue teams, are first class. They've done an excellent job, and we've, in our community, have had needs for their services twice in the last two weeks. In one situation, the rescue teams were in our community before I could get my pants on and get down the street. Okay, so they are first class. The problem comes in that the fire department is a 501c3 corporation. They are not part of Fairfield Glade Community Club. Okay, they have some funding needs that have not been addressed. And as late as today, the funding needs that have been presented or discussed with the board have been put on hold. So one of the first things I would do is want to get that off hold and start to take a good look at some of the needs that they have, and we have as residents, for the health and safety of our people. Thank you.
Okay, Jeannie? Hot mixed asphalt pavement is a vast improvement over oil and chip. It would not only improve our road conditions throughout the Glade, but enhance real estate values. In order to expand the existing overlay program, the HOA monthly fees could be increased $2 to $5 if desired. Would you be in favor of this minimal monthly increase in HOA fees?
Right now, there's some real concerns in the community about the status of the roads, and I've heard that some of the more rural areas have road problems that they're not real pleased with at this time. Asphalt versus chip and tar. Let me back up a little bit. This is not my area of expertise. However, my understanding is that these are county roads and that the county is essentially responsible for them. However, they have not brought them to the level that we choose. And as a consequence, we have taken funds from the Fairfield Glade to pay for those roads and to keep them at the quality that we feel they need to be done. But as a consequence, it's also money coming out of your HOA dues to do it. Now, if that is more important than some of the other things that we're using our HOA dues, then that's something I want you as a community member to tell me. That's what you want to, how you want to spend your money. And if there was an increase in order to do that, I want you to tell me that's what you want. Because it's not what I want. That I would love to have asphalt everywhere. Unfortunately, I think it's a decision the community has to come up with.
Okay, Jack? Do you believe the community enhancements should be approved by the community?
Well, I guess that's a similar answer to the one Oliver just answered. The improvements to the community are, of course, necessary. We want to move forward here. We have a mission statement that says we will continuously improve this community, and I don't think anybody would object to that. The key is making good decisions on investments, as I said earlier. There are many places we can invest in the community, amenities, roads, landscaping. And that's what you have a board for, to make those kind of decisions. So the idea is, let's get the best information available, let's look at alternatives, and let's go ahead and proceed and improve our community.
Okay, thank you, Jack. That does conclude round 3. I do want to make a statement. The questions we're asking are all presented to us by the property owners, and we're reading them as they were written. So if they don't make sense to you or you wonder why, we're getting these from the property owners and we're reading them as we got them. Okay, let's take a short break and we'll be back 7 o'clock. Okay, we're going to begin. Some of you have expressed concern that your candidate or certain candidates had not answered a question that you wish they would have got, and in lieu, someone else got it. Well, we got that resolved, we hope. We're going to try this. The candidates will get an email with every single question asked over the 2 days. All they have to do then is read the question. For example, question 1, do you like the color red? They can answer it or skip it or go to the next one. They will then send that email back to our IT group, and that IT group will then put it on the website. So every candidate will have a chance to answer every question. Okay? Okay, we're going to start our final round. And Jeannie, you're number 1. If the membership should vote to continue with the concert park proposal, how much of the club's financial resources would you vote to spend on the park as proposed should be exceeded? For example, $750,000 or more, would you then put it in the membership to expand this amount of money?
This is a strategic plan that is in conversation. We have no land at this particular time. Do we own any land to put the concert park on? Those lands have been purchased from Wyndham by Mr. Tom Anderson, and he has where we were originally planning or thinking of, or strategic planning in our dreams of putting that is not in our ownership at this time. So the cost of it is multiple different opportunities of what could happen and who might finance that, as opposed to us coming out of our pocket. I believe there was a survey a short time ago asking the people what they want, and I would refer to that to say, what did you say you were willing to pay to make this happen, and how badly do you want it? I know one of the questions was, how much were you willing to pay in HOA dues? It wouldn't be my decision. It would be my re-communicating the decision you've already given me.
Okay, John Byers. Do you believe the current state of amenities, infrastructure, and facilities is adequate? Please explain.
The answer to that's no. Okay, let me just give you an example. I'll put my glasses on here so I can read it. One of the hot items to me is roads. Okay, in 2014, we spent on roads, Fairfield Glade Community Club, spent 5% of revenue on roads. Today, we're spending, in 2016, we're spending 3.8%, and projected in 2017 is 3.3%. Now, that doesn't sound like much, but when you multiply a small percentage difference by a big number, you come up with something close to $500,000 less that we're spending on roads this year than what we would have spent in 2014 if we'd had continued at those same levels. Okay, we're not spending, it goes back to wants versus needs, okay? And, you know, Tom used it earlier one time about talking about his kids wanting Nike shoes. Well, you know, I have an only daughter, and she had a lot of things in life that she wanted, but she didn't really need them, okay? So we need to look at what are our needs and spend appropriately on our needs, and our infrastructure is one of the basic needs that we should be prioritizing high on our priority list and make sure is taken care of. The second one, I got kind of a firestorm after my comment on the fire department here a little earlier, okay, and I'm going to say it again. Part of our problem here is the safety, health and safety of our people. And that being said, a lot of the issues that we face today are really associated with and caused by apathy and not totally understanding what the issues are with the health and safety of our people. And our fire department is first class. Thank you.
Okay. Jack, are you ready?
Okay.
I'm going to read this entire question. You can answer it the way you wish. Have you read the 10-year community master plan developed around 2012 and 2013, in which many projects include a new clubhouse at Druitt, as well as an outdoor amphitheater at Mirror Lake, have been proposed? That's it.
No. No, I did not read the report. I was in California in 2010 and 2012. But any information, any background information is good for decision making. I'm big on decision making with the best information available. So if there is a resource out there that we can use going forward here in improving our community, I would certainly be happy to go through it.
Okay, Oliver. It is common knowledge that the Legends and Stonehenge Grill both need kitchen renovation. Given that information, would you be in favor of spending $1 to $2 million to bring this about?
That's related to the last question that I answered, and it is a very good question. I think we have to look at it from a strategic standpoint and also from a tactical standpoint. We need to look at short-term solutions in regards to our restaurants. And certainly, as you all probably know, there were some upgrades made at Fireside last year, and then some upgrades made this year, just a few months ago, at Stonehenge, and those have been great. Now, in regards to the kitchens, I think we need to look a little more long-term before we can make those decisions. I think we need to decide, do we need 2 primary kitchens? Do we need to consolidate into one? Do we need to build a new building at some point, which could be a brand new restaurant, which would be more elegant and a nicer venue, and bring in more people, and maybe multiple dining rooms that are around one kitchen, so that we can address some of our losses, as some people choose to call them, in food and beverage. So, for example, if we were to look at a new restaurant with 2 or 3 different dining rooms, and various dining rooms could be open throughout the year depending on the demand, but we operated out of a single kitchen, then our costs of operating that single kitchen could be a huge effort towards reducing the losses in food and beverage. So as far as the kitchen, I really think we need to look at the short term, the tactical. Are there some small improvements that we need to do now? And if there are, I would be supportive of that. But we also need to look at the long term and make sure that decisions we make today are also in line with our long-term strategic planning.
Thank you. Ralph? What is your opinion on raising the HOA dues by $2 per month to hire additional police officers to enforce speed limits and enhance public safety?
It's an interesting point that when people talk about improving the highways so they can drive faster, and then if you have poor roads, I guess that means you can drive slower. So, you know, I've listened to the questions on both sides of the argument. One wants better roads, one wants to enforce the speed limit. I guess if you have poor roads, people will drive slower. So that might be a solution to the cost problem from that standpoint. I used to live on a rural, I had a cabin in western Pennsylvania on a rural road that every year they brought the road scraper out and scraped the dirt into the holes. most people didn't drive very fast on that road. And if it was, it created quite a dust storm from whoever was behind you. So I kind of, it's kind of a two thing. I think some of the major roads in the Glade should have a higher speed limit. I think Stonehenge and Catoosa probably speed limit is on the low side. On the side roads, I think again the roads 30 miles an hour is fine. So.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. Dennis. In order to approve the new budget for buildings and facilities, what type of studies need to be conducted before approval?
Could you do that one more time?
In order to approve the budget for new buildings and facilities, what type of studies need to be conducted before approve?
Well, I think you need to go forward and find out what those facilities might be, and then find as much information as possible. I know our project manager has thought about doing some things down at Robin Hood Park, and he's gone out and got schematics and different kinds of proposals that might come. He tends to go get 2 or 3 different offers and 2 or 3 different plans. I saw some the other day, and he has a beautiful board up that explains how that will happen. And then he also explains that there will be a budgetary and a period where you don't do the whole thing at one time, but you do sections of it at a time. And that helps the budget, and it helps us so that we can cover the finances of it. But I think you have to go out and you have to get as much information as possible. And Bob Weber does an excellent job of doing that, in my mind. And then you come back and you start to plan it, turn it over to strategic planning and budgetary. You start adding some budgetary things to it. Certain types of costs you have to bring to the people, I believe, and let you know what's going on, and let you have an input as to whether you want to do that or not. And those things are always critical in my mind, that the community members know what's going on and whether or not you want to do it. Thank you.
Okay, Tom? Incorporation has been voted down, but do you foresee this becoming an issue again in the next 3 to 5 years?
I certainly hope not. I fought every incorporation effort that's been done so far. You stop and think about it. How many of us came here to have a new taxing agency added to our cost of living here? Unlimited opportunity to raise taxes, number one. Number two, in order to incorporate, our services, namely the sewer system, would have to be acquired by the new city. So we're going to buy an asset that we already own and pay to finance it. Number three, incorporation would require the addition of more property outside of the Glade. That requires that you service it. Another problem is we would have to deal with the proximity to Crab Orchard and get that taken care of. So generally speaking, unless you're interested in facing significant tax increases, I would recommend that you continue to oppose the incorporation efforts.
Okay, Steve? Are you in favor of increasing membership, resident involvement in key decisions in Fairfield Glade? If so, what would you do to increase residents' involvement in decision making? If not, why not?
I spend a great deal of time, since I'm the only board member up here, the perception is that we don't listen The perception is that we don't try to find out what the residents and the members want. That is totally and completely untrue. I know there are people out there that disagree with some of my decisions, and that's fine, but there are those of you, I see some faces of people I have spent hours on the telephone with, explaining to them what we're doing. There are some of you out there that I call up and say, how do you feel about this? I wish I had a bigger phone. I could show you the 491 emails that I have on the phone from residents. I read them all. So we do, I think, a pretty decent job of communicating. The perception, and you always hear, is, oh, you just do what you want. You don't pay any attention to what the residents want. That's not true. Again, that perception will always be there. There's nothing I can do about it. But I can tell you quite honestly, I get as much information from the community as I can before I make any decision. I'm an ex-school teacher. I realize, the very first thing I realize is I'm not the brightest person on the planet. So I look for advice. I reach out to experts in the field and ask them their opinion. I think we do a pretty good job. The surveys are better. Communication can always improve. I'm not going to say we're perfect, but we try.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Okay, Phil. What are your comments regarding the stated objectives of the new group, Fairfield Glade Residents' Voice?
My comments regarding the stated objectives of the new group, Residents' Voice. I don't agree with them for the most part. It's easy to talk in generalities about reducing losses at restaurants, keeping our homeowners' fees down. Thank you. But I think that they are far more negative than I could ever be. I think they are, as a group, collectively, they're opposed to what I would call progress, opposed to visioning and attempting to keep this community at the top of its game. They have a lot of statistics. They obviously have some people who are sincere. I have had some quarrels or objections with their campaign tactics, which I think bordered on the unethical. And I don't see it about personalities. I don't see it about, me versus Tom. I don't think it's about that per se. I totally respect their right to have their opinion and their right to voice the opinion. No problem there. It's simply that I don't think their opinion represents the majority or even a small minority. I mean, I think the vast majority do not agree with them, and I don't think that what they want to do is in the best interest of the community. And how in the world did I get that question?
Phil, you should have paid me more. Okay, this is really the conclusion of all of our questions. What we're going to do now, each candidate will have 3 minutes to do closing remarks. And I'm going to ask the candidates, Tom, I know you may not be able to, if you can stand up. We want to make sure all the people in the back of the room can see what the closing remarks are, who's making them. So, Phil, we're going to start with you and just go right down the row.
I'm tired. First of all, I hope you will thank the election committee. Their job was not that easy. Second of all, I had some considerable doubts about this format, and let me just say it worked better than I expected. Now, my closing comments. several somewhat unrelated points I want to make, and of course I wrote them all out. Last night I talked about a skill set and a number of other characteristics that I would be looking for in a board member. I want to take just a moment to highlight some of those. Skill set to me means the ability to analyze things, the willingness to ask tough questions, and the courage to hold people accountable. I said someone should have experience. I believe it's helpful if that experience is in a similar type community or similar type government, quasi-government role. I also mentioned leadership last night. I'd be looking for someone who, when they have volunteered in various groups, have ended up in leadership positions. I mentioned integrity. Integrity is simple. You tell the truth and you accept the consequences. And I mentioned temperament last night. You got to have kind of a tough skin for this job. But you also have to have a little humility. It really helps a lot. I hope you'll decide that I have those characteristics. Maybe you will, maybe you're not. Now, particular issues tend to come and go. And they're important, no doubt, they're important now. But 2 or 3 years ago, we'll have another set of issues. That's the challenge of operating a community like this. You can't always predict what's coming next. Always, however, we're looking to protect and advance and enhance our quality of life and our property values in whatever we do. I want you to know that I've always taken my work seriously, whether it was representing clients in my law practice or serving on committees or whatever. I took it very seriously. But interestingly enough, I never took myself and never have taken myself seriously. And there's a little difference there. I'll leave you with this thought tonight. We all value our quality of life, and we all value our amenities and our property values. And we value the fact that we're surrounded here by wonderful people. It's therefore always appropriate for us to make an investment in that blessing, in that gift that we have. Thank you.
Okay, Tom, you ready?
Ready. I want to thank you all for being here tonight. I hope you see a need for a change in direction. It's our belief that the majority of the property owners didn't buy here to be a part of a resort. We have a lot of people from the villages and other big resorts who've left that environment. We see this as a retirement community that shares amenities with a resort. Those timeshare and resort folks are important because they provide about 18% of our revenue. Even the message on our club telephone calls us a resort community. We have such a great place here. We believe that laid back is as big a draw as the bells, whistles, and souped up golf carts of the villages. Do we have problems that need to be fixed? Amen. The financials have an opportunity to be improved and should be. Capital and supply purchases need direct project management, with RFQs sent for bid outside of Cumberland County in sealed bids and public openings. The board needs to swallow their pride and start talking to the people and listening rather than telling them what they've done. We have a wealth of talent and professional experience in a lot of areas here that could be tapped if the board would just ask for help before we hire consultants. Closing us out is not a way to harmony. It is simple. You address the needs and the issues first, then you look at the wants. I did it in corporations, nonprofits, and with 7 children, and John already stole my Nike instead of Reeboks until they could buy their own. John and I have about 65 years of management and corporate management experience and believe that we can be a positive factor in the maintenance, financial stability, and growth of Fairfield Glade. If you feel the same, then John and I are your guys. I want to close by saying that we are not going to close golf courses. We're not going to close restaurants. We're not going to close the CCC, and we don't plan to push any little old ladies over a cliff. We are not anyone's guy other than the membership in this club. With that, I say thank you, and God bless you all.
Okay, Steve.
Excuse me, I have a set of bad knees. I had written out a closing statement. I don't think I'm going to use it. I would just like to thank everybody involved with this process. Well, I'll use some of it. Do we have room for improvement as far as members of the board? Oh, that's okay. Yes, there's always room for improvement. I will never say anything's perfect. But I want you all to know that I virtually love this job, and I love this community. And this is one of the greatest experiences of my life. I never thought I would want to do this type of thing. In fact, I ran basically because somebody on the golf league asked, and I said, but I'll never get elected. Of course, then I didn't get elected. I got appointed because nobody ran against me. So I got stuck with it. But I've really learned to enjoy it. I think we have accomplished many great things. We've kept our HOA dues low. Our debt is almost impossible, is decreasing drastically. We have a great team. I think if you could just keep that team together, we can continue to do some very positive things. So thank you, and I hope to get your vote.
Okay, John Byers.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, in an effort to try to get my point across tonight, I wrote out a whole lot of things. Okay, and I'm going to scrap that for a moment. I'm going to tell you a story. I think earlier in the meetings, I told you I was from north central Indiana. I came from Amish country. Okay, and one story about an Amishman that I'd like to share with you. This Amishman is walking out through the field, and he comes across a turtle. And he finds this turtle up on a fence post. Okay, he comes to the conclusion very quickly that that turtle didn't get there by himself. Okay, so my message today is, first of all, to acknowledge and thank all of those people that have supported us. We've covered a lot of areas recently, some of them positive, some of them negative. I want to assure all of you that in fact, I love this place. That's why we moved here. And my wife tells me that she's going to bury me here on the golf courses before it's over. But I want to leave you with the list of people and the endorsements of the folks that have supported us, Tom and I, throughout our campaign. And Tom and I have worked together for 45 years. We've known each other. Our careers have gone in many different directions. But his deceased wife kind of got us back together when Marcia and I moved here. But today, I'd like to tell you that the list of endorsees that are supporting us, and that's why we're here, because we didn't get here without their help. Jay McCarthy and the Cumberland Mountain Coalition support us. Okay, evidently not. Okay.
Okay.
Carmen Lynch.
Please, no comments from the property owners. Please, let him finish his talk. No comment.
Okay. Carmen Lynch, Woody Geisler, John Patterson, current past commissioners, the Residents' Voice, Two Homers Owners Association, Matt Dillman, Rusty McClanahan, and I especially want to thank all the many Fairfield Glade residents that have welcomed us into their homes to meet with their neighbors and friends. Thank you. Thank all of you for that. The current system is not broken. It requires leadership. In a few days, you will have a choice to continue the policies and practices of the past or to choose a new direction. Tom and I combined have over 58 years of P&L and management experience, and I would say in closing, your voice is your vote. So we're asking tonight that you please vote for Tom and I. Thank you.
Okay, Ralph C.
Well, I've been on the Council of Churches probably for the last 5 years, and one of the things that I've learned on the council is to listen and to respect the beliefs of others. And I think that's probably the same position that I would have if I was on the board. I want to listen to other people, but I don't necessarily always agree with them, but I will listen and try to take into account what the people want. I think the key first here is make sure that you listen and respect other people's opinions. Reading some of the newspaper articles, I think the batter that goes back and forth is a lack of respect on both sides for the person that's writing the letter, and then somebody writes a letter in rebuttal. There seems to be a lack of respect in that area. I think for the future, I would like to see the board publish their agenda via email so that all the residents will know what the board is considering for their monthly meetings, so that the residents can come to the board meetings and voice their opinions. And hopefully the board will have an open ear and listen to them. I think in the long-term future, in the U.S., this is a democracy. Everybody used to get the right to vote. And one of the things I see in a lot of the newspaper articles is that they talk about the residents. As you well know from all of the things, it's the lot owners that are the voters. So that disfranchises about 1/3 of residents here in the Glade. So I think in the future I would like to see the covenants be changed to be added so that all residents, including the present lot owners, have a right to vote.
Okay, Jeannie Miller.
In closing tonight, the most important thing that I want you to hear from me is that I thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight in this rain. And for those of you who were here last night, as well as those people who were unable to come and who are watching us on video. You came here to hear the candidates, to learn more about us. That tells me that you care about Fairfield Glade. You took the time from your busy schedules to sit here and listen to us. And I know seniors are busier now than they ever were when they were working. You took the time to learn about the candidates and to get the facts so that you could make an informed, wise decision. I'm not sure how much you gained just from based on the few questions that we were able to answer, or whether or not you got a complete picture of where we stand or how we think. But you were willing to check us out. You've done your homework. My congratulations to you. So let me tell you briefly, I want to talk to you about my platform, my agenda, and my plan. My platform is based entirely upon communication. And communication is a two-way street. It's a hearing and a speaking. It goes in both directions. It's a giving and a receiving. From you to me to tell me what you want, what your intentions are, what your concerns, your questions, clarification of rumors. And then from me back to you to clarify what has been happening at board meetings, what plans we have, what ideas, explanations of why things didn't happen the way you think it should be. My agenda is to keep Fairfield Glade a great place to live, and my plan is to work hard for you and for our future. So please, when you vote, check the box Jeannie Miller on your ballot, a positive vote.
Okay, Dennis Munson.
Thank you for coming tonight. This afternoon, I spent the afternoon as a spotter, a volunteer spotter for the women's golf tournament. They could have put that at any place. There are great golf courses throughout this state, but they chose Fairfield Glade. You've done your homework. You've looked at many different places throughout the nation, probably, and you've chosen here. And there's good reason for that. This is a great place to live, and it's a great place to enjoy life. I hope you've learned a little bit about me. Hard telling with the questions that we got, but I hope you have. I have served 3 years on the Racket Sports Committee. I am currently in my 3rd year on the ACC. I've learned a little bit about you. I know that 80% of you people are happy. You've made the right decision, and you hope that it continues. I learned yesterday from the board meeting from President Diller, 6 or 7 years ago, this community was in serious condition, serious trouble. The infrastructure was crumbling. There were no real new amenities, and there was a huge debt. In those 6 or 7 years with Bob Weber and that board, they have reduced that debt to more than half. We have great infrastructure. We've built beautiful buildings that all of us are proud of. They have not asked for an increase or for an assessment of our ownership, and they have not raised the dues that much. And I think that going further, that this is the thing that I would like to do if I'm a member of that board, is to continue that process, to continue to build nice facilities that we can all enjoy, and to continue to decrease that debt. I love it here. I plan to stay here. I do not think that we need a new direction. Thank you.
Okay, John Lenhart, better known as Jack.
Either one works. I will read my statement that I wrote. I think Fairfield Glade has a bright future. How many of you read Don Hazel's article a few weeks ago about all the great things that we have to offer here? I thought it was spot on. I see some trends that will benefit the Glade. One of these is economic. The prevalence of private pension plans is diminishing. I read that only 16% of new hires are being offered defined benefit plans in the private sector. Future retirees will be looking for lower cost retirement locations, and Fairfield Glade, with its value-oriented approach, is one of them. We certainly do not need to compete with communities like the Villages in Florida or Sea Pines on Hilton Head Island. Another long-term trend in our favor is the changing climate. As places like Florida and Arizona become less hospitable over time, the climate here on the plateau will be very much in our favor. In the shorter term, the Peavine Road project will benefit the Glade with faster and safer access, new utility lines, and improved aesthetics. Like it or not, Peavine Road is the front door to the Glade. This year, the state of Tennessee passed an increase in the motor fuels taxes. This should mean Cumberland County will see an increase in transportation funding, mostly for roads and bridges. Some of that money should help improve our roads here in the Glade. So how do we secure this bright future? By making good decisions. Remember how you told your kids to make good choices, make good decisions? Good decisions are made, as we engineers used to say, by doing our homework. The board needs to assemble the best information available, develop feasible alternatives, evaluate them, and make a good decision. Of course, the board has many resources available to it. It has a capable staff led by General Manager Bob Weber. It has 13 committees reporting to it. It can poll the members efficiently through email surveys. It can also hire special expertise when necessary. With all these resources available, the board can make these good decisions. Yes, we all support open communications and fiscal responsibility. Past boards and the club staff have built a solid foundation of physical infrastructure and financial condition for us to move forward. I think Fairfield Glade has a really bright future. This being Tennessee, I volunteer to bring my best efforts to the Board of Directors on your behalf. Thanks.
Okay, last one, Oliver Dossman.
Thank you. Election committee, thank you. Candidates, thank you. It's been quite a process. Thank you for being a part of it. I believe we are on the right track. A new direction is not needed. In fact, I would like for anyone here tonight who is currently a member of the board or who has served on the board in the past to please stand. I would also like anyone who is employed by the club or part of the leadership to please stand. Specifically, Mr. Bob Weber, our general manager, Mary Jo Page, our marketing and events coordinator, our police officers, anyone who is here, please stand. Thank you very much. I was going to ask that we applaud and thank them, and you all did that for me. Thank you. They do excellent, excellent work. In my opinion, they need to be thanked, not criticized. I think we are at a fork in the road in the leadership of Fairfield Glade. We can choose between a negative, timid future, or we can choose a bold, positive, exciting, and bright future for Fairfield Glade. I stand on the side of being positive and being bold about our future. My campaign platform essentially has 3 prongs. We need to be member-focused. We need to be excellence-driven. Let's do things well. And we need to be future-directed. My positions are explained more fully on my campaign website, www.fairfieldgladevision.com, and I invite you to visit that website if you would like to learn more about my positions. And if I have earned your support tonight, then I would respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you very much.
At this point, I want to thank all the candidates for giving up 2 days of their time. And I want to thank you, the property owners, for coming here and being part of this. And believe it or not, it's over. Thank you so much for coming.